So we have to. Hi, and welcome, and good morning to everyone.
You're muted, Andrea.
No. Can you hear me? I hope that everything, it works. It's fine. So our colleague from the background, he says that everything is fine. So welcome and good morning, everyone. I will start by saying that today we open a conversation about teams, about what happens in the invisible space between people, where trust is built, tension becomes growth, and of course, leadership becomes collective. At the ICF Romania conference on March 4th and 5th, we will explore leadership and coaching at a systemic level, diving into exactly these dynamics. And I'm more than honored today to be in dialogue with Karl Van Hoey, a global voice in team coaching, working with executive teams around the world to help them move from performance to true alignment. So, Karl, welcome. And for me and for us, and for those who are here today with us, it's a joy to have you here. Karl? Karl, can you hear me, or we have a disruption in the moment?
So you can hear me?
Yes.
But I can't hear Andrea.
Now, can you hear me? This is Karl.
Can you hear me?
We are back.
Yes. Now I can hear you.
Oh, which is awesome. Thank you. We have all the time this disruption, so it happens. Karl, as I said, welcome, and we are more than happy to have you here today. And I think that we'll have an interesting conversation, and there are a lot of questions, and I hope that you will enjoy together with us. So I just want to say one more thing about you, and then we can start if it's fine for you as well. So for those that who don't know Karl, he is an International Coaching Federation Master Certified Coach, which is one of the most, I will say, respected credentials in coaching, representing the highest standards of professional excellence. But of course, as I know, beyond coaching, you are also a mentor, you are an author, and the strategic architect of human-centered leadership, having held senior HR leadership roles that shaped organizations from within. So, Karl, just to start, from your experience or in your experience, what is, the biggest illusion leaders have about their teams?
That's a wonderful question, Andrea. Thank you. Let me start with a metaphor. When you see that your team is not functioning in a 200% ideal way, I see a lot of leaders do sometimes desperate efforts in order to try to make it work 200%. Now, when the roof of your house is leaking, there's water coming down. There are two options. You can put buckets under the leaks, but you can also repair the roof more fundamentally. Now, what I see leaders often do is try to repair the roof, which is of course great. It's a sustainable solution. But in practice, you will always have both together. By, for instance, team coaching, you will be able to improve sustainably some leaks in the roof, but not everything perfectly. So you will always have the working together of repairing the roof and working with buckets on the floor. And that is an illusion that I would like to clarify for leaders. You will never have a 200% perfectly working team, because humans are humans. So if you come close to 100%, it's already fine.
Mm-hmm. So we need to have both, not only one, and to look only from one direction, which makes me ask you the next question that I have in my mind. And I know that I hear from you often that you speak about, seeing the team as a single system, not
Yes.
as a sum of individuals. So
Yes.
what changes when a leader truly adopts their systemic view?
Well, going forward on that image of single entity, you could compare it with the human body. You have organs in the human body. Well, it's no purpose to coach each individual organ individually, because they need to work together. So a good image of a single entity could be the bloodstream. That's the word, the bloodstream that is going through your body and that actually connects all the organs that need to work together. From the moment that a manager or a leader gets the wisdom that he should focus on the bloodstream in between the team members and not on the team members individually, from that moment he makes a shift. He stops looking at a group of individuals that he maybe desperately wants to be working together, and he starts looking rather at what connects them. And then you have common projects that need to be executed by 1, by 2, 3 or more team members. You have common objectives that needs to be achieved. You have a common culture in the team. You have common values in the team. You have common habits in the team. Those are the things that leaders should start focusing on while looking at a team as a single entity or a body. So you're no longer interested in the needs or the demands of each single team member. You're only looking at what do they need if I look at them as one entity, as one body.
Mm-hmm. So we already started to dive in, to know or to see what are their expectations or illusions from the leadership perspective regarding their teams, their members, and so on. We already discussed about how to see a team as a single system. So just for those who are listening and are here with us, if you have questions, it will be really nice to address them in the chat. And Karl is here to answer to so many questions. We have we have a limited time for our conversation. So if you have questions, please drop them in the chat and we will answer. So, Karl, we have one thing that it's quite important and it's really hard sometimes, to address in teams, in groups, and so on. And it's about conflict. So it's something that is not easy, to address the conflict. So I'm just curious now, and I'm wondering, what does conflict play in team maturity?
Well, it's crucial. It is crucial. It's the number one topic that I always hear when I have intake conversations with teams that I'm going to be coaching. It always relates to two things. We don't trust each other enough, and we don't know how to deal with conflicts. Of course, those two are related. Now, what I see in the culture where I live in is a lot of conflict avoidance. There is a conflict. There's a tension field between you and a colleague, but for some reason we do not dare to speak about it, to talk about it. We do not dare to touch it because we are afraid that the reaction may be even more severe or maybe even worse than the conflict itself. So that is why we do not dare to talk about it a lot. And that's exactly why, this is very interesting. Some of you may know the pyramid of Lencioni about team dysfunctions. When you have that pyramid, here above, you have everything related to results and accountability. But here below, it's about trust. And a bit higher than trust, you have exactly conflict maturity. So the big challenge, both for a team leader and certainly for us as coaches, is how do we create from the beginning a safe space for the team members so that they do not only start trust you, their coach, but only start trust each other. Meaning that at a certain moment, imagine, Andrea, that you and I would be part of a team. All of a sudden, I'm going to start feeling safe enough to finally tell you what irritates me in you. And hopefully, vice versa, you will be able to do the exact same thing with me. And that's good, because it could happen that already for a half a year or longer, that both you and I have been suffering a bit from this conflict. It may not be outspoken, but it's there. So clarifying conflict maturity and what is needed to have conflict maturity is absolutely key in every team coaching. And it relates to trust. And what you see there is courage. From the moment that one has finally found the courage to talk about each other, about conflicts, automatically the underlying trust is going to strengthen. And from the moment that the underlying trust has become more powerful, you're going to have more courage to again talk about your conflicts. We survived it a second time. Nobody got wounded by talking about conflicts, and there are trust is reinforcing again, and so on. So in fact, you come in a positive circle where here trust, here conflict, and the courage to talk about them simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. You made me curious, Karl, about this topic to find out more, and I'm pretty sure that also the people that will be in Bucharest face to face will have the chance to meet you and to find out more. As you mentioned, trust, conflict, collaboration, communication. We all the time we say, okay, it's something there, it's fine, they are with us, but in practice is different, because we need to address, we need to be there, we need to support. And from the leaders, I think it's important, to know how to handle and how to address, because it's also important, as you mentioned, to be there and to do something, not to have it in the air, because we feel it when something is it happens in our teams. We don't have questions for the moment, but I'm addressing again the fact that if you have questions for Karl, feel free to add them in the chat. I have so many questions for you, so I'm just curious if they are also from our audience. So going with the next question that I have into my mind is what usually blocks leaders from making this shift? Is it a skill? It is a mindset for them, or is just the organizational, pressure to do something?
Well, it's usually it's many elements playing together. First of all, how is the organization and how is the leadership of the organization looking at the phenomenon coaching? Well, I assume that you and I and most of our participants here are coaches, or are becoming coach, or are leaders, or at least have interest in coaching. Well, that is not everywhere the same. Give you a very simple example. I live in the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium, Flanders, and culturally, coaching has gone a long way before being accepted. It was often said that, when you need a coach, you must have serious problems. If you go 300 kilometers upstairs and you go to the Netherlands, the country north of Belgium, there the culture is the exact opposite. So, whoa, you don't have a coach. Well, that is a problem. You should have one, because coaching for us is part of our corporate culture, is part of our mindset. Total opposite cultures. Now, if you live in an organization where coaching is, we do not so sure about that is what we want, then you are going to suffer as a leader if you think that your team needs it, because you're going to have to fight to have coaching for your team. That's the first thing that can really block things. The second thing is your own skills as a leader. Imagine that if you've never been involved in any training or workshop or journey or education on coaching, you're going to have a hard time on skills level. Or you're going to confuse coaching with advising, with finding solutions, with other things. You're going to block 1 hour with your team or with an individual, saying, okay, let's have a coaching conversation. Oh, great. But what you actually do is, I'm not so sure what coaching really is, so I'm going to give some advice. I'm going to provide solutions to my collaborator. And after 1 hour, wow, we had a great meeting. Look at what we solved. Yeah, all right, but that's not coaching. So in order to do the same thing for a team, which you usually seem more complicated than individual coaching, there's a lot of things that need to be in place on skills level and on cultural level. And that's why often integrating a coaching culture, as we say it, often starts with people at C-level being coached by external coaches, so that they at least would have a first smell and flavor of what it is. And from that, it can cascade downwards in the organization.
Yeah, so you touched two things here: the coaching culture in the organizations, and I think here we have so many things to say. And also, how does a leader be a coach? Because most of the time they don't do coaching, and with these things in mind, I was wondering what maybe, internal shift, or let's put it in a different way. Let's simplify it. What truly means, or what truly turns a team leader into a team coach, for example? Because you mentioned this, they don't do coaching, they do mentoring or maybe advising their colleagues and so on. So, just wondering how truly turns a team leader into a team coach.
Well, apart from the skills level, leading a team is something else than coaching a team. But apart from what needs to be in place on skills level, there's one fundamental shift to make. That is the fundamental awareness that you as a leader can only be successful when you coach your team. The awareness that the business results that you have to achieve can only be achieved if your team starts doing 90% of all the work. You are busy with your 10% of supervising, leading, and coaching. But the awareness that I have to be able to trust that when my team members are working together as a team, that's only then the objectives can be achieved. Because that's a pitfall I see so many leaders make. Yeah, but this I really need to do myself because it's so important and it's so urgent. And that thing there, I need to do myself as well. I cannot ask anyone or the team. And for that thing, well, my team is not yet a team enough. Well, the result is that at the end of their reflection, they're going to do pretty much everything themselves. And only a small minority of tasks will be delegated to the team, which is, of course, the exact opposite world of what you should want to have. So the awareness that you and your team can only be successful if you totally trust on your team working together. So it means that you have to let go things, letting go things, trusting that they will be able to do it. That's the toughest one in my experience.
Trust the process.
Yeah.
And you know that there are also leaders who really want, to learn different frameworks, different, processes, to apply them in the teams. But I think it's more than that from my experience. And from your own experience, what internal shift does a leader need to make before any framework, any techniques, for example, actually works?
The shift that they actually don't need tools or frameworks. They need to do and be themselves. But it's a brilliant question. I often get that near the end of team coaching exercises. Karl, well, this is all very well, but in exactly 2 hours, you will be gone. Then what? Can't you give us some tools or a framework or a model or something to take with us? A toolbox, that's often the most popular word. Well, I don't want to shock anyone here of your audience, but I hate toolboxes. I hate tools. I hate framework. Well, Google is full of it. Have fun with your tools and frameworks, but it's not that what you're going to need. What you're going to need is you as a leader in the capacity of being fully present, in the capacity of showing curiosity, in the capacity of being a listener, in the capacity of asking powerful questions. It's the basic skill set that you need as a coach. That is what you need. But, it can't harm to work with tools now and then, but it's not the toolbox that is going to make you successful as a team coach. It is the staying in the energy and the staying in the intention and focus that you lived during the team coaching exercise. You need to stay somehow in that energy and keep it going. But you do not do that with tools. You do not do that with frames, with models. You do that with yourself. You do that trying to be the best possible coach you can be. What I often do at the end of team coaching exercises is I give them 3 or 4 models with which we've been working during the team coaching exercise, so that they at least recognize them and know what to do with them. But it's pretty much about who you are as a leader, and not so much about the tools you dispose.
So we opened a really interesting conversation, and we already have questions, and we have so many questions in the chat, Karl. I will ask you the first one. When you coach executive teams, how often is the real issue not strategy, but team identity? And how do you work with a team to clarify team self-image identity? Both are connected with the identity part. So
that's a fantastic question. Thank you, Michaela. The key word actually where to start is the conviction, well, actually the blocking idea, the limiting idea that teams are not to dispose about their own identity. Because Karl, let's be honest, what's the purpose of developing our own team identity when we're actually part of the big machine that is called our company? There is an identity at a corporate level. There's a culture, there are values, there's a mission statement at the highest level. There's a strategy. What on earth would we waste our time by creating those things ourselves? And that is a fundamental pitfall, because a team needs to have what I call a sub-identity, a sub-culture, sub-values, sub-SUB in the way of being in correlation with the rest of the organization, of course, but also offering themselves their own freedom, their own value system, their own identity on which they can work. And what's interesting to see, that is, once that the team gets aware, but we are our own identity, our single entity here, our bloodstream, can have and should have our own identity. From that moment on, you will see that the quest for an own strategy actually becomes much more easier. And there's no longer the question of how should we interpret that strategic objective. The question becomes then, we are a team. We have an identity as a team, and we will find out ourselves how we are going to do that. We are going to find out ourselves how we will be contributing to the strategy. And quite honestly, the only thing that the upper leadership is interested in is, where are the results? And the way that you get them, it's entirely up to you.
Oh, thank you for answering to our question. And the last question, unfortunately, because time is short, from Ira: what is the way to pay a leader's attention to the importance of increasing the proportion of the managing role versus doing role?
That touches a bit to what I earlier mentioned. The more that the manager is active in operations, doing things himself, the more that he's probably doing a very bad job. Ideally, on manager level, 80% of the things to be done is being delegated to team members. Ideally, and 20% you do yourself because very important, very urgent, and so on. And that's exactly the struggle of so many leaders. Two things are needed there. First of all, the shift in convictions that I as a leader can only be successful if the team is doing 80% of the work. And secondly, it's the belief that they're capable of doing that. And so the readiness, being prepared that your team members make errors sometimes, and that you will, as the leader, sometimes have to, repair those errors. And that's part of the management job. when you observe yourself doing too many tasks, doing too many things, it's time for a very deep and profound questioning of how capable, how effective am I as a leader?
Karl, I have so many questions, but the time. And at ICF Romania conference that will take place in March, and you will be there with us, and thank you for being there. We'll have people with different backgrounds, board members, HR leaders, CEOs, professional coaches in the room. So there will be so many people in the room. And I have one question for you. And I know that you were involved in shaping ICF Team Coaching Competencies. And during our conversation today, you somehow touched what I want to ask you, but it's just a summary maybe of what we already discussed. Maybe which are those competency, or which competency do leaders underestimate the most, and why?
Well, that's both in individual coaching and in team coaching. It is the necessity of doing appropriate contracting, coaching, contracting. What is the next 2 hours going to be about? What do we want to achieve? How will we know that we have achieved it? How are we doing halfway? That is what turns a coffee chat into a team conversation. Appropriate, profound contracting at the beginning. And I know that within an organization, between manager and collaborator, you're not going to sign a contract, your colleagues, but there at least should be at the beginning a verbal agreement on what you are going to talk about, with what purpose, and some measuring. Otherwise, it leads to nowhere. And that is, I think, the most underestimated competence of all of them.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of experience will the participants take away after your session in Bucharest?
Well,
tough question, I know.
Yeah. Well, sometimes people tell me that I'm a kind of coach that is not 100% fitting in the boxes. Apparently, sometimes I have opinions, and I speak out opinions or approaches that are, well, not necessarily the most common, let's say. That's the first thing. So be prepared for some atypical stuff to hear. The second thing is, before becoming engaged in ICF, and before becoming also a CCE provider myself, I have a very profound background as an executive corporate coach. It means that my thinking about coaching is well, let's say, is more and perhaps a bit richer, and sometimes also a little bit deviant from the strictest ICF way of doing things. Of course, I fully respect ICF and I totally integrate the core competencies, but coaching is more. Coaching is more than just those core competencies. So be prepared for now and then an approach or a vision that is slightly different or slightly alternative from what the pure ICF framework is offering.
Mm-hmm. So it's more than that, if I have to sum it up. And we know this, we as professionals, we know it's just a guide to know the core competencies, and it's quite important to know and to work with them, understand them. And also it's more than that, because in conversations, as I'm saying all the time, in real conversations, it's beyond what we know maybe at that moment. Karl, I really want to thank you so much for being here today with us, and I'm pretty sure that it will be a valuable session in Bucharest. I just want to say one more thing, and it's something that remained with me after this conversation. Teams today need to be accountable. They don't need to have more control. They need more awareness. They don't need more meetings. They need better conversation and to address the things that are really important for them. So if you are a leader, if you are a coach, if you are a board member, if you are a CEO, it doesn't matter the role, I will say. And if you are ready to work at a systemic level, join us on March 4th and 5th at the ICF Romania conference. This is not just another event from my point of view. I think it's a space where teams and leaders can evolve and can learn and can meet together in the same room. So I hope to see so many of you also from online, and also those of you who already, bought the tickets to see you in Bucharest on 4th of March. Thank you so much.